Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us as we gather to honor and remember the life of Gregory. We will be beginning in just a couple minutes. We're just waiting for a couple other guests, and then Julie's going to take over, and we'll go from there, okay?
Thank you all for coming. I'm going to try to get through this without sobbing like a baby. I wanted you all to know a little bit about our lives together. We met at work when we were working for the state. I was a contract employee and he had just graduated from college. When my contract was over, I gave him my phone number. That Saturday night at 6 p.m. he called me and said, "What are we doing tonight?" I was getting ready to go out with my friend and I said, "I don't know what you're doing, but I'm going out and party." Well, the next week, I had to go pick up my final check. So I walked in, sat on his desk with a dress slit up to my hip, and said, "So what are we doing tonight?" The man stammered and said, "I have to look at apartments, but I'll pick you up after." We dated for a while, but he kept telling me he could never be in love with me, so I broke it off. I went to New York to visit my sister for a few weeks. During that time, my sister kept saying, "Oh my goodness, why do you keep talking about this guy named Greg?" When I got back home, I called his number, but when he answered the phone, I asked for his roommate, who was a mutual friend. That did not go well. He finally called me back and we started dating while all the time professing that he could never be in love with me. One New Year's Eve, we kissed at midnight and he said, "I love you. But I'm not in love with you." My proposal came of more of a statement than a question. He looked at me and said, "Well, I guess I am in love with you. I guess we should get married." I never got an E. I didn't even get a chance to say yes. Our lives have been through so many trials, the loss of our daughter, where he had to be strong to support me while I grieved. To support his family was incredible. He had the ability to compartmentalize his personal life and get his work done. Greg's deep commitment to IPP was unwavering. I learned many years ago that when it was closed, anything else had to stay on hold. And throughout his illness, IBP honored that commitment by giving back their support tenfold. He supported me through nursing school. Every test I would cry, "I'm going to fail, I'm going to fail," and he would talk me off the ledge. When I said I wanted to get involved in fostering dogs, he jumped in and was better than I was. Whatever wild idea I had, he supported me, and he kept me laughing. He had an entire comedy routine about me shopping at Macy's. He was my soulmate, and I will spend the rest of my life missing him. Now, if anybody would like to come up and share a moment or two about our lives together, your lives, how he influenced you, I would love to hear it.
I know this group has things to say. So the question just is, who's gonna go first? Thank you, Barbara.
Can I say something, please? First of all, Julie, I want to tell you that he was in love with you. He loved you. You were the center of his life. I mean, he was always dedicated to you first. So he was wonderful. He was a beautiful soul. I think I've known him for about 20, 25 years now. And I will tell you about Greg. He had the most ridiculous jokes that he loves to tell over and over again. But he also was someone who never judged anybody. He was always kind to people. He never gossiped about anybody. And he was easy to love. He was easy to love. And he will be very, very missed. We have a whole group of people who have known him for years that ran with him. And I understand what you mean about closing, because he could not run in the morning when he had his closing. No, I can't run, I'm doing my closing. So he was consistent, and he was a consistent friend, and we were very much miss him. And I just want to say we kind of like him as a mother, and not just a question.
I am not good at this. Yes, ma'am. My friendship with Greg and Julie began during a running party at a bar. This blonde woman walks up to me and goes, "I like your boots." And so began a 20-plus year friendship. Greg and Julie are our best friends. They have been for 20 years. We vacation with them. They introduced us to all-inclusives, which now I'm addicted to. Mexico, Punta Cana, we've vacationed with them. They've invited us down to their condo in Florida. We spent some of the happiest vacations with Greg and Julie. And Saturday nights, probably maybe we'd miss 10 a year not playing cards, going over their house, playing with the dogs, playing cards, listening to Julie cuss because she wasn't getting her cards. But we ate dinner with him every Saturday night, played cards with him every Saturday night. So our lives are really enmeshed, and he's going to be greatly missed.
Come on, who got that story? It could be in public.
See, a quick story. I mean, Greg's a good friend of mine. We had a great time together and stuff. But he always had a sense of humor. And he was in the skilled nursing. He was laying there. And Joe was over. He was watching. So like, oh, flip channels. But yeah, run across the Spanish station. Talks off and said, "Hey, you want to learn Spanish?" He nods yes, puts thumbs up. And then 2 seconds later, he's going, blah, 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 blah. So, acting like an East Spanish. Anyway, just a great guy. Will miss him. Love him dearly.
I'm Julie's cousin, Amy, and we come from a family that had a lot of cousins, but not so many now. But I first heard of Greg from my mother, who also worked for the state, who wasn't the biggest fan of young men, but she really liked him, and she was so thrilled when Julie met him and when they fell in love. And she was so grateful because she thought Julie deserves such a wonderful husband, and she does. What I remember about Greg mostly is first how he looked at Julie at their wedding. And I thought, there's not a woman on earth who wouldn't give everything she owns to be looked at that way by anyone. But also as a father and a grandfather, he was just amazing with incredible patience and such love. The last time I saw him a few years ago, it was at a dinner, and his granddaughter was very little. She was an infant, and she was just a tiny bit fussy. Not that she wasn't perfect, because of course she was, but she just, she wasn't comfortable sitting at a big table with a lot of people, and they were all eating food she didn't eat yet. I don't blame her. But he just, without even saying a word, he just took her from her mother and walked downstairs and spent the evening just playing with her. And I don't know, that was something we all talked about for years after that, how amazing that was, that he was just so happy, spending time with her. And he was even willing to go away from the love of his life for a few minutes to spend time with that young girl. So I'm just always grateful for Greg, as a father, as a cousin-in-law, and as the man my cousin loves. And I'll always be happy and grateful for him.
I remember when, right after Greg and Julie got married and they got their first house, I was deciding what I wanted to do for a living. And they didn't have a school of architecture in West Virginia, so I decided on the Ohio State. And so I spent the summer living with them while deciding if that was really what I wanted to do. And they took me with open arms and put up with me, and it was lovely. I just remember he was always there for me. I remember I went to visit my grandmother, and on my way home, my car died. And it was late in the evening, and I had to be back for tests the next day. Jumped in the car and drove down and got me.
I just feel like something's been taken from me. I don't love him so much.
I didn't really. I was busy working all week, like my dad would have. My other free time was spent putting together that slideshow. But I did just want to say a few things. I wouldn't be the man I am today without my father. My career is because of my father. I went back to school and became an accountant like him. And I really found a passion for it. I realized why he enjoys it so much. He taught me that people can really grow and change no matter how they are. When I was young, he was very black and white about things. And as I got older, he became more gray. And, he found the great scale in things, and he became more open-minded and flexible. And he really showed me that people can grow and develop no matter how they are, no matter how they're raised, no matter what. You always have room for growth. He was a big, big influence on my life. And this whole week working, it was really tough. I always give him a call, saying something funny about, work, because we're both accountants. He could relate. And we had something funny happen with an intern this week, and I called my mom, and she thought it was funny, but it didn't have the same impact as my dad. And he was a fantastic logical sounding board. Whenever I needed somebody that had, really good logic, and I was too emotionally involved in the topic, he was a great sounding board, and I'm really going to miss that. He was a really wonderful man.
Okay, I really can't believe all you running people don't have anything to say.
Clearly, I didn't dress appropriate to stand up here and talk, but Cape Cod casual was my goal for the day. I thought about a racing shirt, to be honest with you. So I was kind of the slower of the running group. I was not effectively up front with the groupies that are all here. But I obviously got to know Greg through my ex-husband and got invited to these cool fast parties because I was in the back. And then somewhere Julie joined along the way, this whole daggone running group thing, and you started running, and I didn't know how you could do it and still smoke and still come out and run. She might have been the unhealthiest runner I ever knew, skinny, smoking, all that. And then I did an Ironman along the route, which if nobody understands what that is, it's 2.4 miles of swimming, 112 miles of biking, followed by a full marathon of 26.2. So somewhere between your legs and your arms, it's 140.6. I don't know what took Greg, but somewhere between 12 and 17 hours you're allowed usually to complete one. The fast guys do it in 7 to 9. I don't know how that happens, but they do. And along the way, I've met Greg, and then I think I gave Greg some advice maybe about this whole Ironman thing. I think he did Ironman Louisville 2 years after me, 2013. There was a group of them. I got to impart some youngster knowledge on him and tell him how the day was kind of going to go. And he did it. He did it. There's one thing I learned from Greg is commitment. Commitment to whatever. I've never met somebody who can do 365 days of a New Year's resolution. Like, give up chocolate. How do you do that? Give up dessert. I think that was the dumbest one. Because at least if you give up chocolate, you can still have vanilla cake or pudding or something like that. But dessert, I'm like, no. And I love desserts myself. Sandy, a good friend of mine, went to visit Greg when he had just transferred to Wesley Glen. And I shared with Greg a story that I'd missed qualifying for Boston by 1 minute the week before, 2 weeks before, back in April. And I was preparing to go to Bayshore Marathon that weekend and tell him that I had business to take care of. And he was a few words that day, there's no doubt, with Sandy and I. So I said, Sandy, we got to carry the conversation around Greg. But he did give me that thumbs up. And I can tell you at mile 24, when things got tough, I thought about that thumbs up that Greg gave me, only to find out when I got home, things had taken a turn for the worst. Seeing Greg brought back some memories for myself. My grandmother survived 2 years worth of a stroke. And I knew the road ahead for you, Julie, was going to be tough. And so may Greg rest in peace, and may he be over us as we run our own miles throughout the next years of our lives.
Else I can add, different than what everybody's expressing, the part of the running community also. And it's a unique group of individuals. I think I started running with Greg 2004, I think when Fleet Feet first came to town. And we had grown up in the cotton sweat generation. And there was always they kind of look pink because they start out red and then they get bleached out. And so, we kind of showed up there and we just got to talking and going, what are you supposed to wear on these runs? Because we weren't really fully technical at that point. So we did just kind of blended together because we had some of the older equipment, I think, on our first run. And the relationship just kind of grew from there. And runners can go an incredibly long period of time together and not say anything. And it's a lot of talk. Some people are good at engaging in deep conversations. And I think Greg and I, well, Greg probably more than me, I just don't engage in deep conversation. I don't, when it goes political, I don't go there. So you say, well, what can I say about it? But I can just say that time together, having them by my side, we did so many races together. And we did tough races. And that commitment that Greg showed, and that just the gumption to keep grinding and grinding through it. And that's what this whole running community has. So I know you think, oh, that's a strange group of people there, but we all recognize we are, but we got each other's backs through everything. So, sorry to be tough to say this, but I have so much respect for Greg and the family, and he had family first, that's what, he talked a lot of what little that we did talk about, but it was family, and he is a good guy. I will say, Greg is in heaven, no doubt. I have a strong faith in Jesus Christ in that he has got, Greg is as happy as a lark, I can assure you. And he's there with us. The Lord's got us, the Lord's wrapping us up, each of us in different ways, and gonna, work in our lives to get us where Greg is today. So that's all I can add.
All right, I can plan either, but I knew Greg through running 6 at 6, and I love being a part of a team. I love being a part of something. And I feel like he made me feel included. And it's just not going to be the same anymore running without him. You know, there's just, I mean, not everybody shows up at 6. And so sometimes just me and Greg would show up and run. And so there were times where I felt like our conversation would get a little deeper. And I asked him about Claire and I asked him about family things. And one thing that, because we would see Greg and Julie at Meyer. We would see him at Fourth Friday, and he would always ask about my kids. They would always ask about my kids, and I felt like that was real sweet. And my kids were praying for Greg, and I was sad for Greg, and my son would ask, how's Greg? How's Greg? My husband told my kids just this week, you know, Greg always asked about you guys. Like, Greg always was asking, how are your kids? And my kids were like, really? I just feel like people don't realize how much impact they have. And just really thankful for Greg. There were silly things, you know, I'm sure I didn't know him as well as a lot of you, but, you know, he was a guy. He had an idea of how many miles we needed to go and what routes we needed to do. And sometimes we didn't agree with Greg. And we even mentioned it this morning because we ran this morning. We ran through Greg's neighborhood. But it was like, half of us wanted to go one way, but Greg wanted to go that way. And we did part ways sometimes because Greg had it in his mind that he wanted to go this way. And, but yeah, it's just not going to be the same. I feel like we're a team. I feel like that's why we like to run. We like to accomplish. We like to be side by side and do things together. And I don't know, I'm going to miss him.
I've known Greg and Julie for 20 plus years. A lot of races, a lot of early morning runs with Greg and the crew. And I beg to differ, Kristen, because I was always the one bringing up the rear. And we had a joke about who lost the coin flip would have to hang back with me. But I always tried to run with faster people to make myself better. Greg was a huge supporter. I coached with him. I paced plenty of races with him. We did a lot of marathons together, traveled together sometimes. Did Boston the same year, 2013, the year of the bombings. That was the one year I got myself there, and it didn't end very well. But I was just sitting here thinking of a funny story about all the crazy times that we have as runners. And there was one winter we were forced. There was a few of us we were forced inside to run that day. And so we decided we're going to meet at the rec center. And 10 laps is a mile. And we had a really long way to go that day. And Greg brought a lap counter. And so he would click it, and then we'd do a couple laps, and we're like, did you hit the button? He's like, oh, damn it, you had one job, Greg. So we lost count, and we just decided at that point, like, no one can count as many laps as we had to do. I think we had to do like 16 miles or something insane like that. So we gave up, and then we went based on time that day, and then just enjoyed our run. And, Greg and Julie had just been good friends for a lot of years. Julie was also NICU nurse when my son was in the hospital before he passed. And I'm just really going to miss him. I'm Diane Heskett Snow, and I'm one of the Heskett cousins, the oldest, and Greg and Mitch were 1 year behind me. 10 of us grew up together and spent a lot of time out at the Heskett farm growing up. Many happy memories of those years when we were little kids together. In, I think, 1967, they had their terrible accident where they were hit. Their family was hit at Thanksgiving time by a drunk driver in Columbus. And Greg came to stay at our house. We lived in Columbus, and then Mitch, and then
everybody eventually got out of the hospital, but we were all together that week and played a Monopoly tournament. And also, I remember rigging the pool table so the parents, when they saw, it would look like we got all the balls in one pocket. And many, many happy memories of the farm. After that year of the accident, my grandmother started a Thanksgiving tradition that we would all come out to the farm for Thanksgiving because we were so grateful that their family had all survived that terrible accident. And it was a time to celebrate life. And he was always there every Thanksgiving. He never missed. And that was so like Greg. He always showed up for people. And so I'm so thankful for him and all he meant to us. And we'll miss him very much.
I gotta say, not all my experiences with Greg were great. I calculated last night that, as with many of us, we probably ran over 10,000 miles together. And I thought last night that 12 of those miles we argued vehemently over politics. He wouldn't agree that I was right and he was wrong. So that was a problem with Greg. Other than that, he brought a lot of joy, a lot of friendship, a lot of support for the balance of those 10,000 miles. And there's a term, gift of gab, and I don't think that applies to Greg. He had the gift of conversation. He could converse with you, listen to you, and he made all those runs a whole lot better. Thanks.
I'll probably have a harder time getting through this than the other people up here, but two things I wanted to share about Greg. Back in high school, our father thought it was important that we go out for a sport. And I know a lot of people in this room won't believe it, but I think it was winter at the time, so the choice was track or basketball. He chose basketball. I ran out for track. So I knew Greg before he was a runner way back when. And, but I ran on and off throughout the years and everything like that, but 2-3 miles here and there. But Greg talked me into running a half marathon. So I came up here and ran the Cap City half. And I don't remember if it was that year or a later year, but I think he was pacing that one or something or whatever, but he finished the race and he came back out, what they call, they'll run you in. That means a lot. So, and I think that's what I remember about Greg. So thank you.
I actually have a surprise for you. I have a marathon school. I am not. I think it's obviously a runner. He's actually, he and Julie are the only people I know who ever ran on purpose when they weren't being chased. But I have a daughter who is also not a runner. And at one point she wrote on Facebook about how she was looking forward to the marathon. And Greg he didn't miss a beat. He wrote to her immediately and said, "Oh, if you need any help, and I'll be there. What marathon are you going to run?" And she called me and she said, "I don't know what he's talking about." And I said, "Well, what did you post that made him think that?" Well, she was actually talking about the horror movie marathon that she and her friends had gone to for 20 years together. every year. She thought he had some way to practice for that. Staying up for 24 hours is hard. And that's, unfortunately extent of her sports training. But okay. Anyway, even after that, even after she told him, it's not actually that kind of marathon, Uncle Greg. He, the next time he saw her, he said, well, how was your marathon? So that's surprised you with a marathon story.
Okay. I think I'm going to close this out. If I can get through it with a poem that I've read online. And it was by a lady named Catherine, and she must have shared what I'm feeling right now. It's titled, I Wanted to Grow Old with You. I wanted to grow old with you, but fate had other plans. I vowed to love you until death as we stood holding hands. We pledged to be together until our lives are through. I thought we'd spend golden years ahead, just me and you. I know you'd be here if you could. You tried so very hard to live. You struggled to rise every day, gave all you had to give. If love could save you, you'd still be here with me. If love alone could bring you back, how lovely that would be. But no one lives forever, so I'll go on alone. I'm finding my new normal, attempting to move on. The silence now is deafening. The empty bed brings tears. I dream of you most every night. I hope I will for years. I look for signs that you're around. Perhaps I've gone insane. But I miss you so desperately, I'll grasp at anything. Our memories are all the best I have to do. I'm thankful for the years we had. I know that I am fortunate, but some will never know. A love like ours, the joy we shared before you had to go. I miss your touch, your gentleness, your laughter, and your care. And now the pain at what I've lost is more than I can bear. You said, grow old with me. You said the best was yet to be. We vowed till death that we'd be true. I wanted to grow old with you.
Thank you, Julie. That was a lovely poem. Thank you. And I'd like to thank everybody for coming today to support the family. On behalf of the family and Hill Funeral Home staff, please be safe going home tonight. And thanks again. Appreciate it.